As a Jehovah's Witness, you live under multiple layers of rules. You basically start with the Bible, God, what the Bible and God says.
Mm-hmm.
Then you live by what the governing body says. And at one time, what the district overseer said, and then the circuit overseer, and then finally, local elders. The problem is these different layers in the organization. A Jehovah's Witness has been told, you do not question the elders. You don't question the circuit overseer. You don't question the district overseer, for they fire those boys, and you don't question the society. So throughout this entire list of all these individuals, the witness doesn't know, am I questioning just this man talking, or am I actually questioning what the society and God is saying?
You're listening to The Critical Thought, where we challenge our listeners to use critical thinking when examining the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Hi, this is JT.
This is Paul.
All right, we wanted to get back together. Me and Paul had been talking for a while, and we wanted to share some more things with you guys. Could you share with the audience something that I have no experience in? And that's the school that dealt with the couples, because by the time we had left the organization, they weren't really doing, the only thing couples could do when I was in was go to missionary school, Gilead. But the Society Institute, a lot of ministerial training schools and all that kind of good stuff to try to create some instant circuit overseers and all that kind of stuff. But what was the couples school like?
Okay, so I went to the couples school in 2013, and I didn't really want to go. It was more my wife, she wanted to go because, again, in the organization, you're always taught you need to do more. You need to reach out, right? Reach out, do more, because if you're not reaching out to do more, then you're not a spiritual person, right? I even remember they said that at the district convention a few years ago. I was this fellowship, I happened to go for a day, and they said, brothers, if you're not reaching out to do more, you're not a spiritual man. So there was this pressure. I went, right? And I thought, I'm going to make a go of it. Right away, right from the get-go. Again, it's kind of like Bethel, where they say, you're the cream of the crop, because, you're only a few people are invited to the school, right? And it's interesting because we talked to people that had been to the school before we went, and they warned us. They're like, man, the homework is brutal. The amount that you have to study every night is just brutal. In fact, we knew people that had gone, and they had to take vacation after the graduation for 2 weeks just to decompress because it was so stressful. It left them feeling basically burned out, right? So we get there, and sure enough, that's the way it was. We would school would be out at, 5 o'clock. We'd drive back to our accommodations. We had to cook our own meal. But then there was, I would say, 5 to 7 hours of homework every night. Absolutely every night. I have, for example, here, I don't know if you can see it. This is 60 pages of number 10 font with thin margins. And this is what we had to study in one night, just in one night. Now, I could go through all of this, right? One by one, I could go through all of it. But basically, just 3 of these pages is one full Watchtower article. So, every night you're studying the equivalent of probably, 10 Watchtower articles, and you're reading, so many chapters of the Proclaimer's book, and it was just totally. I asked myself, who made up this curriculum, right? And so we had people in the class, and here's another thing. Again, when you're a witness, you're not allowed to be negative. Like if you happen to say, this is too much homework, or this is something's wrong here, immediately people would be looking at you like, what are you saying? You're not appreciative, and you're just saying it honestly that there's something wrong here. So we actually had a moment in our class. It was right early, and the instructor, he's asking us questions, and people are sleeping, right? There was actually a couple of people that were falling asleep. And the instructor goes, okay, what's going on here? Why are there people sleeping? Like, why are you guys sleeping in class? Are you not getting any sleep? And I felt bad. I wasn't the one who had closed my eyes, and it was someone behind me, right? So he's asking the question. So I put up my hand, and I thought, okay, I'm respectfully going to give him the answer so he knows why we're falling asleep. I'm like, excuse me, Belsai, but the amount of homework we get every night is like 6 to 7 hours. So we're up until 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. I says, and then we got to be up at 5:36 in the morning to be here for morning worship at 7. I said, so we're not getting much sleep because there's so much homework to do. And I said it in a nice way, but I said that because I felt bad because he was basically coming down hard on the people that were, sleepy, right? Because they'd been up all night studying. And he's like, okay, well, if you really need to get your rest, then just, don't worry about doing all the homework. Don't worry about reading all the articles. And of course, that creates a situation too, because if you've ever been a student in any course, the whole idea is that they give you homework because you're going to be tested on it. So now the teacher's telling you don't do it all. So then you're going to fail on the test because you haven't read it, right? So it was just nuts. And then when people started getting a little more rest, then he'd ask questions and no one would raise their hand. And then he'd be like, well, why is it that nobody has the answer? And again, I put up my hand and I just said, well, I think it's because we probably just didn't get that far in our homework last night. And this is kind of the end of it. I says, we're probably all in the same boat that we decided to stop and go to bed. That's why we didn't read up on this. So then our other instructor, he hears about this and he was a really nice guy. His name is Ryder. And he was a lot more down to earth. And he said to us, okay, guys, I'm going to give you a tip. The other instructor, he's not going to tell you this. But when you've got a Watchtower article to read, this is what you do. You read the first sentence in each paragraph and you read the last sentence. And you'll pretty well know what the paragraph's talking about, right? Then just move on. First sentence, last sentence. First sentence, last sentence. Underline the first sentence, underline the last sentence in each paragraph, and you're good to go. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is called divine teaching. Like this is, stuff that we're supposed to know. So they're not giving us time to study. And then they're telling us, ignore everything in the paragraph, just look at the first and last sentence. And it just didn't make sense. And I mean, it was nice of him to tell us that, but it's basically telling you, if you just want to answer the questions, then just read the first and last sentence. So it just burned us all out. And just to show you some proof, early in the game, the one instructor, Ryder, he knew me quite well. We had got to know each other in Bethel, even though he was a circuit overseer because we crossed paths and he'd be in Bethel. We enjoyed each other's company. So he was like, Paul, this thing with the homework, Brooklyn asked us, the teaching department asked us, what changes need to be made. And, we've told them many a times to reduce the amount of homework and they don't change it. And I'm like, yeah, so what's going on? And he says, you know what? It's really sad. He says, because we've had students come in here for the ministerial training school, right? Because that's what they were doing before they started the couples school. And he said, we've had brothers pack their bags and leave in the middle of the night and not say anything to anyone. He says, we've had brothers have nervous breakdowns here because of the pressure, right? And lo and behold, in our class, we're under extreme pressure, all of us, right? There's this couple, and this sister, the wife in the couple, she has a nervous breakdown in the middle of the course, and she's talking gibberish, and all it was really bad, and everyone felt really bad for her, right? And everyone's wondering, what's the reason behind it? Well, they didn't want to say that it was the pressure of the school that was getting to her. It was, her husband's uncle is sick right now, and that's really bothering her. Come on, JT. If Lady C's uncle is sick, are you going to have a nervous breakdown over that?
You're right, though. It's bad, man. That is,
they pile it on people.
So sad, man.
They're back under pressure, and then they try to pass it off as being something else that it's not. And I even asked, after I finished the school, JT, I asked the circuit overseer, who was a good friend of mine. I approached him after the graduation. It was about a week or two afterwards. I said to him, why is there so much homework? This is ridiculous. I says, and it's been like this for years. They've never changed it. And he's like, well, in the couples school, the ministerial training school, part of the goal of the school, this is from the circuit overseer. He said, part of the goal of the school is to put you under a lot of pressure to see if you can handle it without breaking, because the society is looking to take members, graduates from the schools and send them into the circuit work. And the circuit work, you got this heavy load on you all the time, year after year after year. And they want to find out who can handle extreme pressure without breaking. So he actually told me that's actually one of the goals of the school, is to see how much you can handle. And they throw it all on and they see, well, so-and-so, you know what? He handled it good. He's going to be a good circuit overseer. And, you know, I just go back to, you know, thinking about when Jesus taught his disciples, did any of them have a nervous breakdown? Did any of them go crazy? Did he load them up with 6-7 hours of reading material every single night for 8 weeks or 10 weeks? And they went out of their minds? No, it wasn't like that. So how can you call this divine teaching when you're loading up these heavy loads on people? And you have instances of people having nervous breakdowns in the school because they're trying to keep up and they just can't handle it.
Jesus said that my load is light, and he condemned the Pharisees for binding up heavy loads on people. And what you say is nothing more than a spiritual boot camp that the organization set up, which has nothing to do with the Bible. The Bible never, ever talked about stuff like this. And I can't help it, but this is why I keep going back to what I often say. This organization is a business. It has nothing to do with Jesus, Christianity, the Bible. This is a business. We need people who can move the products. And we want the best field marshals, the best field soldiers we can get. And if we have to do like they do in the Marines, we're going to break them down. If we have to do that and some have to fall by the wayside for this new sales program that we're putting together, let it be. And this is why it's important that people like you, myself, and other people who had an opportunity to literally see behind the curtain. I mean, I'm just being honest. The average person who will be watching this video, the average Jehovah's Witness who's baptized, who will be watching this video, because of the structure of the organization, they have never seen or heard of things being done like this behind the scenes. And this is the effectiveness of the organization in keeping secrets. I tell people this organization is a needs to know basis. If you don't need to know, you won't know. And if you take someone like females, they don't need to know nothing in the organization field. If you take someone who doesn't hold a title or a status, they don't need to know nothing. And as you move up the food chain, you are invited to more and more private conversations that show you things about this organization that you either have to say to yourself, hold on, something's wrong with this, or you simply become a good company man and you go with it. And that's what we see in businesses all the time. There are people who move up the corporate ladder and they see things are wrong within those organizations. And because of the personal benefit that they get. See, witnesses don't reward people with money. In other denominations, they give the pastor the Rolls Royce and the Lear jets. In the Jehovah's Witness organization, they give you status and titles. One of the things that when we went back to college, one of the things that they taught us is that psychologists have come to understand that we as humans, we respond more powerfully to adulation, praise, elevation, being looked up to, highly respected. Those things mean more than money. And that's why militaries, they were saying that the press was saying that's why in the military, you can't give more soldiers more money. You can't change the dynamics that soldiers are all sleeping in the mud because they're in the foxhole. But there is one thing that you can do. You can give him more stripes. If you look at military organizations, in some countries, man, they have like military bars all down their coat.
Hey, have you ever seen the North Koreans?
Oh, man,
like,
Lord.
You can't even see the material that their suits made of because there's just so many, and their hats are just like massive. You know, they look like a sombrero, right? But when you're invited to couples school, again, you're made to feel like really special, you're the cream of the crop. And depending what country you're in, the objective could be slightly different. For example, Canada, there's not much increase. There's not much interest in the territory. So pretty well out of couple school, very few people are actually going to be sent out as special pioneers, which, you know, is probably what they want to be the goal. But hey, you know what? You're going to send someone out as a special pioneer if there's a, you know, territory that's not going to be, there's not interest there. So the idea is they're trying to train you about all of the doctrines, teachings, policies of the organization, so that when you go back to your home congregation, you're going to be an example. You're going to be the one to basically tell everyone or show everyone that this is the way it's done. This is what the society says, and this is the way we're going to do it. You know, and they try to tell you not to be imposing. But like, for example, in the Dominican Republic, you go to couple school, because there's a little more increase in that country, they might send you out as special pioneers, and that's what everybody's looking for. But it's also, they're looking for circuit overseer material. They're looking for someone they can use as a substitute circuit overseer, or even the full-time circuit work. So yeah, there's all these objectives, but really the purpose of the school, I mean, when you look back on it, is you're spending hours and hours till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning just reading Watchtowers and Kingdom Ministries. That's all you're doing. You're not looking at verse. You don't have time to look up verses. You're just flying through the material, and it's basically so that at the end of the course, they can send you wherever, and you're going to fall into line. And you're going to help others fall into line, because you've now memorized what's written. You know what's written.
Yeah, you're a good society man and good society woman. Yeah, that makes sense.
And you know, JT, you know, I could see your emotion there, that, you know, you talk about the Pharisees binding up heavy loads, right? Jesus said that they weren't willing to budge them with their finger. In other words, with their finger, they could have removed that whole load, right? And when you think about it, for years, the teaching department in Brooklyn has had feedback about people having nervous breakdowns in the schools, and the pressure and the excessive homework every night, the lack of sleep. They, with one stroke of their finger, JT, one stroke of their finger, they could change the curriculum. But it has sat like that for decades. They might have made small changes, but like I said, because I've been out for the last 4 years, but they could have done that decades ago, and they refuse to do it, because it's about drumming it in and making sure you know everything that's written from all these old Watchtowers and Kingdom Ministries. They, with one stroke of their finger, could remove the heavy load from the brothers and sisters, and they don't do it. My father, years ago, he approached the circuit overseer, and he says, why for elders school are we giving so much homework? And the circuit overseer is like, well, you know what? We've mentioned it before, but, you know, that's just the way it is. In other words, it doesn't change.
Yeah, that, for me, that's probably the saddest part, is that there are so many things that the organization could do. We see how they change teachings with just the next magazine. They'll drop a teaching they've had for 35, 40, 50 years with the stroke of a pen, and things that can actually help the friends they want. We see that with the meetings. For years, you know, the society held these meetings, and we were always taught, we need this. And it's kind of ironic. You would think as you get deeper in the last days, you would need more meetings. And all of a sudden they turn around and drop the meeting. Well, that's what folks been saying 25 years ago, was too many meetings, 25 years ago. And so you have men who they have the power to change and impact people's lives. And that's what makes this thing so sad. These people, with the stroke of a pen, one meeting, a vote of 3 guys, and entire teachings and issues can change overnight. And,
and they don't do it.
And they don't.
I'll give you an example, JT. You touched on the 3 meetings a week, right? And when they eliminated one of those meetings, the midweek meeting, right? They said that the reason was to make the load lighter for the brothers and sisters, right? That was what they said, because I was in. You might have been out by that time, but I remember when they got rid of the book study, right? And they said it was to make the load lighter. Wait a minute, I started thinking about things. The book study was always in the center of the neighborhood. Most people actually walked to the book study. If the weather was good, they would walk. So it was not much gas, or they could even walk, because the whole idea of a book study was you had a location that was in the neighborhood where families that live close together could come together and have a meeting together, right? So they're making the load lighter on the brothers. So they eliminate the book study, which was the easiest to go to. No, they should have eliminated the school and service meeting, because that requires you to drive to the Kingdom Hall, which in some cases could be very, very far away. So it doesn't fit their description. If they wanted to make the load lighter on the brothers, why not leave the book study where people felt like a family and they didn't have to go very far? But the problem is the book study, there was very little surveillance over what went on there. Elders couldn't be watching each other. That was I've talked to so many brothers and sisters that are in and that are out, and they're like, that was the meeting they should have kept. It was the easiest to go to. And they got rid of that one, and they're forcing us to still come to the Kingdom Hall during the week. So again, it doesn't fit the reasons for they say they're doing it, right?
Oh, yeah. I remember being told growing up as a kid, the reason we have the book study is so that in case of persecution, we will be used to having small little groups. I mean, all that kind of stuff. And I've also heard that it also had to do with liability. When you have meetings in people's homes and it is a organized meeting by a religion or whatever, if anything happens, people are injured, you might can face some liability as well. But we do know one thing. One thing that we do know, the reason was not made for the benefit of the friend. It wasn't made for the benefit of the friend.
Exactly.
That much we do know.
Now, going back to schools, I don't want to forget mentioning this. At our couples school, the district overseer, who was the instructor, and I still remember this to this day in my years, he told the class, and he made a long pause, and he looked at us very solemnly, and he says, brothers, when you go back to your congregations, you've got to teach the brothers and sisters that they shouldn't be giving their comments in their own words. And at that time, they had a way of the Bible highlights where they would do the congregation Bible reading, and then there would be 30-second comments. I don't know if it's changed, but anyways, for a couple of years, it was like that. Everyone had 30 seconds to kind of say what they liked about the reading or how that applied to them. And the district overseer says, we don't want them telling us what they liked about the reading, how they felt about this, or how they says, the brothers give all these weird comments. You've got to teach them to go to the publications and to find the answer in the publications. So here we have the district overseer, the school instructor, instructing couples to go back to the congregations and basically teach the brothers that they shouldn't be giving personal expressions of their faith. They should not be giving comments in their own words, that the best comments are the comments when you read a sentence or a paragraph from a publication that you did in your research. And I'm just like, this is nuts. I mean, sounds like communism, where, you know what, you're not allowed to have your own thoughts. You've got to repeat whatever the party had written. And this is right from the horse's mouth. I can't tell you how bad that made me feel. And he made it look like the brothers were stupid, because he was like, oh yeah, the brothers give all these crazy comments. No, they don't. It's nice to listen to people when they talk about how they feel about something that they read in the scriptures. That to me is beautiful. And here he is, he's making them think, oh, these guys are way out in left field and they don't hit the point. Well, no, they don't hit the point that the society wants them to make. So the whole idea is we were being taught to go back to our congregations and help the brothers and sisters to research in the publications, to find their comments, reading from the publications. So no longer, saying what you liked or how that applied, you think that applies to you. No, we're going to put that out. We're going to kibosh that. We want the brothers to be reading from the publications when they give their comments.
Wow. Let me ask you a question. How does the couples school deal with personal matters? Because, in the organization, the society they're not shy about getting into people's personal lives and so forth. Mm-hmm. How do they handle that in the school?
Well, this is interesting. we all, when we got the curriculum, it shows you each day what unit you're going to be, what topic you're going to be discussing. And each day is divided about 4 or 5 units, right? So there's one coming up and it's about sexual matters, right? And so everybody is kind of like, I wonder what they're going to discuss in that, right? Well, lo and behold, and this is really funny, JT, and you know what? I'm not going to hide it because it's an embarrassment to the schools, and it's something that I believe is systemic. We were on the weekends. We had to go to school Saturday morning, but we had Saturday afternoon, evening, and then Sunday off. But usually we were doing homework anyways. But we went to this meeting at the congregation that we were assigned to, and it just so happened that a couple that was in another couple's school that was going on at the same time happened to be there, and there was a little get together after the meeting. So here we are, we're in the couple's school in Santiago in Dominican Republic, and we're in the couple's school in Spanish. And in Santo Domingo, in the capital, there's another couple's school going on, and it's going on in Creole. So there's 2 couple's schools going on. So here we meet this other couple that are in the school in the other city, and we meet them on the weekend, and we're talking to them about, how's it going? Because they were 2 weeks ahead of us. Their school started 2 weeks before ours. So we kind of let on that, well, we got this unit coming up that talks about, marriage and sex, and we're kind of trying to get an idea, what do they talk about, right? Because everyone's a little bit on edge. So the couple tell us that the instructor, a circuit overseer, and I know him, so you know what, if he says he didn't do it, he did it, because here was the couple in the school telling me about it. He went around the class and asked all the couples how often they were having sex each week. I mean, can you imagine that? Like, you're in a public classroom, and the instructor, who's supposed to be a spiritual man, and he's a circuit overseer and an instructor for the organization, and he's asking each couple in front of other people, even in private would be wrong, but he's asking them and putting them on the spot as to how often they're having sex each week.
Yeah.
And that is not an exaggeration. It's not a lie. You can, at Couples School, 2013, Santo Domingo in Creole, that is what happened. Now, when I heard that, I was like, you know what? If our instructors are planning on asking the same question, I'm not going that day. I'm sorry. That's none of their business what goes on between a man and a wife at home, right? So I approached our instructor, Belsai. I said, I approached him in private. I said, Belsai, I just heard this from another couple of the questions they were asking during that unit. I'm just telling you right now, I'm not asking, I'm telling you that if you're planning on asking those type of questions, I'm not coming that day. Right? And I was willing to actually maybe even be kicked out of class for not showing up during that unit. But I sincerely felt that no one has a right to be asking those questions. Right? Well, lo and behold, he was actually kind of shocked by it too. And he investigated, and they gave the guy a rap on the knuckles, right? But the funny thing is that you had a whole classroom of couples, and none of them had the courage to say anything about it. This was said in private, the couple warning us about what happened in their class, and it might happen in ours. They were kind of just giving us a heads up, but nobody had said anything to anybody else. And I'm thinking, it's so typical, because in that school, you're all expected to keep up appearances. You're supposed to be positive all the time. And if you happen to question anything, already you're putting in doubt or at risk if you're going to get an assignment when you're finished the class. So everybody's on their best behavior. No one wants to speak up if something wrong is being done. And that's the way it was in the class. I was actually the one who wasn't even in the class. And when I heard about it, I brought it up right to the district overseer. I said, you know what? I don't know what's going on, but this is wrong, right? So, but it goes, maybe you could say, well, that was just that guy who asked those questions, but it's typical of elders and instructors and people high up in the organization wanting to know intimate details in person's lives when they have no right to. It's none of their business. And it's as if they feel, and then of course, another thing that's systemic is that he says it to a whole classroom and not one of them has the courage to speak up.
Yeah. I often tell people that as a Jehovah's Witness, you live under a multiple layers of rules. You basically start with the Bible, God, what the Bible and God says.
Mm-hmm.
Then you live by what the governing body says. And at one time, what the district overseer said, and then the circuit overseer, and then finally, local elders. And that's one of the reasons why we will have people who will come onto our channel, and I've watched this over the years on other channels, and they will make this basic statement. They didn't do that. They've never done that in our area. We've never heard of such a thing. And they're actually telling the truth because they didn't. The problem is these different layers in the organization. A Jehovah's Witness has been told, you do not question the elders. You don't question the circuit overseer. You don't question the district overseer for they fire those boys, and you don't question the society. So throughout this entire list of all these individuals, the witness doesn't know, am I questioning just this man talking, or am I actually questioning what the society and God is saying? Because see, they sat there and they didn't know if this was the question that was in the outline from the faithful and discreet slave.
Exactly.
And they had said, brother, it's none of your business. You step outside, we can talk about this. They don't know if it was from the society. And like you said, they also knew that they've been given a privilege to you. You were just privileged to be here. Be thankful, dirt, that you're here, okay? Two of the most important things to understand about Jehovah's Witnesses, the culture and the teachings. They have a culture where individuals in position of authority, they feel at liberty. That circuit overseer, that instructor in no way felt he was out of line. Brothers, how often you and the wife be getting together? Brother, how long have you and the wife? They feel that because this is the culture that exists in the organization. And like you said, nobody said anything. Out of 10 grown men, nobody walked up to him and said, man, I talk to you, man. What are you talking about? Nobody did that because that's not the culture. If the man says it and he's from the society, then we're going to let it go.
If you speak up, you're putting your future at risk. That is, everyone knows that. So it's like, okay, we'll just keep quiet. We'll just think. But really, like, I mean, if there's witnesses out there that are watching this video, if you have people delving into your personal lives, just tell them to butt out. Just tell them that's none of your business. This has nothing to do with your role.
Yes, we did a video that dealt with judicial cases, and this is what happens during judicial cases, especially if it's typically, for example, an attractive sister and you have 3 L's. Those are the type of questions they feel completely at liberty. And if you don't answer the question, it will be interpreted as you are not cooperating. You're not really sorry. You're not really repentant because you didn't answer the question I asked you about what went on in detail. And so it's a constant cultural thing. And like you said, you're sitting there saying to yourself, now we can end up in 3 places. Back as regular pioneers, sent off to some for some God-forsaken area as a special pioneer, or we can get that new car as new circuit overseers. Exactly. And so you sit there and you ask yourself, is it worth it? Nah, I'm gonna let this go. But see, that's what makes this organization keeps flowing. And as long and long as people don't check anybody, and that's the way it is. You, like you said, you wouldn't check him. The average witness is not going to check the brother. We know that. Ask anybody who's been in a judicial meeting what type of questions do they ask. I have a judicial meeting where a sister she refused to, but generally speaking, they'll tell you all the details. You ask it, they'll tell you everything A to Z, up and down, sideways, whatever. And that's the culture. And it's just ironic that the instructor felt at ease and the couples, they simply accepted it. When you have that combination, you get that type of stuff.
So, I doubt something like this would happen in Canada because, Canadians are known for being very reserved and conservative, right? But in other countries, I really believe that they take liberties. They assume that because the culture maybe is a little more open, that they can use that open culture to then, it's like an open door for them, and they want to get in and know what's going on in people's personal lives. So here's another thing, JT, that happened in our school. We're approaching a unit, and all of a sudden, the instructors say, you know what? we're gonna have to put this unit on pause. And we're like, what's going on? And they're like, well, they just released a Watchtower online with new light. And we were going to teach the class this, but the Watchtower is completely different. Like the new light is completely different. They said that, right? So there's no sense us teaching what we had planned to teach. But we have to get in touch with the teaching committee, right? So here they are, the instructors, they're like, they're contacting the teaching committee. What do we do? Do we teach them the old teaching, like just continue on with the curriculum? Or do we try to incorporate this Watchtower that was just released on the website? It hadn't yet come to the congregation, but at that time, everyone was looking at the website for the new magazines coming out. And the instructors, you know, that night, the night before, they happened to read this article and it's like, wow, new light. But wait a minute, we've got a unit coming up that says the complete opposite. So they're contacting the teaching committee, right? And they're asking, what do we teach? Do we teach the old version, or do we try to use this Watchtower to incorporate it, right? And so the teaching committee was like, no, we got to move to the new light. We can't be teaching the old version, right? So, but it just shows you that they can change something at any moment, and it should happen right during the school. That something right away that they were planning on teaching us as truth, as being the truth, it was instantly outdated because the night before a new Watchtower came out, right? And they were in a quandary. What do we do, right? So it's like, wait a minute, they were going to teach us a lie if they hadn't read the Watchtower that night, the new one, right? So, or yeah, I mean, maybe the new light was a lie too, right? I think that was actually more the case.
Probably was.
Yeah, it was more of like two shades of darkness, you know? We were in darkness before, now we're just in a slightly different shade of darkness. But it blew me away because I was like, they were going to teach us something as truth, and a Watchtower came out last night on the JW.org website that just totally wipes it out. So we got to change the teaching, and we got to fix this, right? So that was one of the things that happened during the middle of our school, which was kind of funny.
That's amazing because it goes back to what you had mentioned before about with the stroke of a pen.
Yeah.
They change things.
Yeah. And here's another thing. I was appreciative of the time that the instructors and all of the support staff had dedicated for us to be there. Okay, I won't deny that. Hey, you know what? These people are working to teach us or whatever, right? But the students were encouraged to show their appreciation for the school, right? And that means money, right? Make a donation of some sort, right? So the students, the couples in our class are basically, in the majority of them, and they were basically being egged on by a bunch of butt kissers in the school. There was a couple of brothers in the school that were just sucking up to the teachers all the time, right? So they're being egged on, the majority of the couples, that we need to give the instructors a gift of money, right? And I'm like, wait a minute here. Isn't that like paying someone to teach you? Like Jesus said, you receive free, give free. Isn't that like basically giving them money, saying, thank you for teaching us, we're giving you money? And the worst thing about it was, both circuit overseers had brand new vehicles. Now, this is in the Dominican Republic where the majority of the brothers are poor. And they're driving around in these Hyundai Santa Fe's SUVs, brand new, sparkling. All of their room and board is covered for. They're given allowance. The circuit overseer and the district overseer also had an expense account. If they wanted to go to the supermarket and buy this, that, and the other, they just grabbed the receipt. They hand it in to the local congregation, or they hand it in to the school. Everything for them was paid for. So they actually weren't out of pocket. And at the same time, for the school to happen and the meals and everything, they had these volunteers that would come on. Now, these were the brothers and sisters living on the outside that didn't receive any reimbursement, that had no vehicle, that had to pay their own money to hop on a bus and work the whole day at the school facility. And I was like, no, we should be trying to get a contribution for them because they're not being reimbursed. They're the ones that are out of pocket. The instructors have got everything covered for, and they're comfortable. They don't need money, right? We'll thank them for their time, yeah, but hey, if we're going to give a gift of money, let's give it to these people that are putting out of their own pocket to come and cook for us or clean for us, right? Well, lo and behold, I wrote an email to all the brothers, the husbands and the couples, right? And lo and behold, some people took offense to it. The fact that I was saying that this is wrong for us to be giving money to the instructors for teaching us, and that we should instead divide it among the brothers and sisters that had put out of their own pocket to cook for us and clean for us and all the rest of it. And again, it was just a matter of, there was just things like that would repeat themselves. I'll give you another example. Every couple was asked to write a personal letter to the governing body to thank them for what? For the New World Translation, and to thank them for the teaching. And I really felt uncomfortable about it. I was like, they don't even know me, and I don't know them. And it's true that, yeah, maybe somehow in some way, in a very distant way, they're responsible for all this. But they didn't sit there every day and teach me. It was just like we're idolizing the governing body. And then we had to read the letter in front of the whole class. And again, it fits with all the changes we see in the organization. You remember, JT, back in the day, well, maybe because you're in Bethel is different, but maybe Lady C can validate this. But we didn't even know that all the governing body's names. We didn't even know what they looked like, right? Now, everyone knows their names. They're memorized. We see their faces all the time. There was this pride beforehand that, oh yeah, we don't follow men. But now we are following men. We are idolizing them. We're expected to, basically there was no choice. You are expected to write a letter of thank you to the governing body. And I was thinking, because I knew in Bethel, it wasn't the governing body that made the school. They assigned some of their helpers who had other people below them, and they worked on a curriculum, and they looked up articles. And at the end of it all, maybe the governing body just kind of looked at it and says, yeah, this is like good, a few little changes. But the amount of input that the governing body actually put to make that school was like this. I can guarantee you, it was pretty well next to nothing. They've got so many other things to do. They're not making up schools.
Yeah, that's true. They just sign off on it, and their right-hand men pretty much take care of that kind of stuff. You're right in terms of how we condemn other religions for giving their upper leadership celebrity status. And you're right. We know who the governing body was because they were very low-key. At least they had the sense enough to be low-key. This new set of governing body members, they're like celebrities. And a confirmation of that was when someone wrote me and said they were at a convention with the new Bible, and the governing body was being asked to autograph the Bible, the Word of God. I want you to autograph the Word of God. Yep. And I'm going to tell you, man, that this person wrote me and they said that was pretty much the turning point for them because, like myself, they were always brought up, these are faithful and discreet slaves, servants, humble. Well, you ain't really humble when you got folks having you sign God's word, the Bible. I mean, yeah, that's pretty bold. And here was really an excellent opportunity for them to teach the same as it was in the book of Revelation when the angel came to John and John fell down on his knees and started worshiping. And the angel says, "No, man, get up. I'll get in a lot of trouble up in heaven. I tell you all the time, I'll be on wing washing duties for the next millennium. Get up off your feet." The governing body didn't do that. And it kind of reminds me of what happened to Charles Taze Russell. When Russell first started out, he controlled everything that went into the magazines. And the moment that Charles Russell heard that there were people who were reading his publication and saying, "We believe that you are the faithful slave," Charles Taze Russell had a golden opportunity to shut it down right then, right there. No, I am not the fulfillment of Jesus's words. I'm just a servant like you. I'm just trying to figure out the Bible the best way I can, and I'm just sharing with you guys what information I came up with. But don't start trying to attach no special. No, when my mama had me, it won't no holy birth. Okay, he didn't do that. And what he did by silence, he did it by silence because he didn't confirm. Yes, I am the faithful slave. He just let other people say it, and he didn't stop it. And so we see the same thing with the governing body today. mean, the first person who asked them to sign the word of God, they should have stopped them right then, right there. Cold. I'm your brother. We're the same. I can't sign God's book. This belongs to God. If I put my name in it, I'm telling you, this is my book. Because that's what people do. You sign your own book. You will never go to any book signing where somebody is signing somebody else's book.
Exactly.
That's not how it works. And the arrogance to think that you should be signing the Bible. That's an arrogant dude. I mean, that is one arrogant dude that comes to the conclusion that this is a good idea. And of course, everybody else is running around trying to get Bible signed. So, I mean, it's very sad. And this is the kind of stuff that many witnesses, they sit back in the corner in the cut and they see this stuff and they're like, man, I don't know. And this is what starts that process. This is the type of behavior that starts them on that journey where they're going to start asking more and more critical thinking questions, and they're going to realize that the answers don't fit what's in print. They just don't.
This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers.